Chapter 1, Lesson 3 is going to talk about health risks and your behavior. Believe it or not, the biggest influence on your health is yourself. The choices and the decisions you make ultimately can have a very positive or negative effect on who you are each and every day. As we go through life, it's incredibly important that we identify health risks to us. Now, we do things every day where we are faced with some degree of risk. Crossing the street, driving in a car, riding the bus, whatever it might be, certainly we could come up with a host of different things that could happen that would be a risk to a person doing these type of simple everyday tasks. Oftentimes we know the risk, we know the consequence, we know how to protect ourselves, and it's never really an issue. But we have to be aware of the risk behaviors that we do partake in that could potentially hurt us. We're talking about actions that, again, could potentially threaten your health or the health of others. We all know that sports are a ton of fun, or any type of activity where you're running around doing things with friends or teammates, but there are possibilities that you could get hurt, get injured. Some people are even fatally killed in activities that they simply enjoy doing and may have been doing in a safe manner. We need to identify threats to our health so we can make safe and responsible decisions. There are some pretty obvious risks that we know, and there have been some studies that certainly can affect people more highly than others. Again, recognizing risk behaviors is a start to understanding what can hurt and harm your body. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, you'll hear us talk about that organization a lot this year, has identified 6 of the most significant risk factors for young people under the age of 24. Number 1 is tobacco use. We're going to have a whole unit on tobacco later on, but it's a choice that people make. Now, people can eat unhealthy, have an unhealthy diet, and some people can live to be 90. Some people, may have complications like a heart disease or heart attack at an early age, and sometimes we can't predict that. But tobacco is something we know is a choice, and it's something that is preventable. Number 2 is unhealthy dietary behaviors. We need to be watching what we eat, and we're going to talk about nutrition later on. Inadequate physical activity goes hand in hand with diet. Number 4 is alcohol and other drug use, certainly something else that can lead to your body breaking down or some damage to your body. We certainly know alcohol can have an effect on the brain, and there are a lot more other dangerous drugs out there as well. Number 5, sexual behaviors, talking about unprotected sex, not believing in abstinence, not knowing your partners, having multiple partners, things like that. And number 6, behaviors that contribute to injuries and violence. Could be getting in fights, could be antagonizing people, just put yourself in position where you could be hurt. With any risk we take, it's important to understand the consequences. We don't always know these things, but even a small young child would know the consequence of crossing the street without looking both ways. Could result in somebody being hurt, somebody being injured, and we have to be able to think 1, 2, 10 steps ahead on what the consequences might be. We do have long-term and short-term consequences. Having one cigarette today may not have many short-term consequences, but it could lead to an addiction, which could lead to a lot of long-term health risks down the road as a result of the addiction to the cigarettes. We also have cumulative risks, related risks that can increase in effect with each added risk. If you can think about it, there are a lot out there. Maybe you have a few at the top of your head. Some other ones would be eating a high-fat diet, smoking, speeding, using a cell phone. A great example is driving a car, especially as a teenager, which we know already is difficult. But if you're a teenager driving a car, you have friends in the back who are making noise and giggling and laughing, distracting you. You're on your cell phone, radio's blaring, maybe not wearing your seatbelt. All these things are adding up to really putting yourself in a dangerous position. So how do we avoid or reduce risks? Sometimes it's not always easy. If you're somebody who likes to go snowmobiling or four-wheeling, the obvious answer is, well, you stop doing these activities and you won't get hurt doing these activities. Well, they're fun. We like to do them. It's the same reason why we play sports. We know there's an inherent risk involved, but we can take steps to avoid and reduce, and one is prevention. Prevention is taking steps to keep something from happening or getting worse. It's why we put on a seatbelt. It's why we wear a helmet when we ride a bike or go skateboarding. It's why football players wear pads. It's why we look both ways when crossing the street, all those type of things. Practicing healthy habits to keep a person well and free from disease and other ailments. Again, going back to the list the CDC provided a few minutes ago, knowing the history of our sexual partners, being careful with our own sexual health, those would be good examples. Other ones, seatbelts, wearing sunscreen, especially in a hot summer day, wearing a helmet, getting regular checkups, going to the doctor, that type of thing. And abstinence is a big one, and that goes along with sexual activity, but can be used in a lot of different ways. It's a deliberate decision to avoid high-risk behaviors, including sexual activity and the use of tobacco, alcohol, and other drugs. Essentially, it's saying no to something that you know potentially could harm you. And the whole idea of prevention leads into what we call lifestyle factors. Lifestyle factors are the personal habits or behaviors related to how a person lives. There are things that we can do every day or ways we can lead our life that can be very, very positive, but certainly could be negative. Here's a list that is very important to teenagers. Number one, get 8 hours of sleep each night. Not always the easiest thing to do, because we know that in order to go to high school, in order to go to work, chances are you're up around 6 a.m. plus or minus, a half hour or whatever. But if you're getting up at 6 a.m. in order to get 8 hours, you're talking about going to bed by 10 p.m., which might be early for some people. So you have to find a balance. Some people need more, some people need less, but 8's a good number to aim for. Start each day with a healthy breakfast, possibly some fruit, some carbohydrates, some protein, healthy foods that get your body going, get your metabolism kicked off, and start off on the right foot. And eating a variety of nutritious foods each day. You may think you eat healthy, but if you're eating the same thing every day, even though it might be the same fruit or vegetable, we need to really get a variety to make sure we get all the vitamins and minerals and the nutrients that our body really craves and needs. Be physically active for 30 to 60 minutes most days of the week. Notice it says most days. There's not a specific number there. It could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5, or even more, depending on what you're doing and how intense your workouts might be. If you're an athlete, you're probably getting that, especially during the season, but maybe in the off season you're not quite as active. Maintain a healthy weight. There are charts that will tell people how much they should weigh based on their height. It's not a real accurate measurement, but at least gets you an idea of where you should be. Abstain from smoking or using other tobacco products, and abstain from the use of alcohol and other drugs. All healthy things that we can make choices for to put ourselves in a position to lead a healthy and happy life.